Welcome to the Benzino Podcast, where we're calling a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. Pinch me, I must be dreaming. Did Cathy Engelbert just give Caitlin Clark credit? And did she not only give Caitlin Clark credit, but she didn't list off 15 other players as well? Yeah, Caitlin Clark is the huge part of our success. Not Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Beckers, not...
Did that just happen? Did Cathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner who spent 2 years listing off every player's name whenever anyone mentions Caitlin Clark, just give her sole credit for the league's growth? No Angel Reese, no Aja Wilson, no Sabrina Ionescu, just Caitlin Clark. This isn't just notable, this is a complete reversal from someone who's made a career out of gaslighting the media about who's actually driving ratings. So what changed?
Because our season's shorter, now we'll be able to play up to 52 games over the life of this agreement. When I came in, I think we were playing 32. So you need that, and you need those stars. And Caitlin, without question, has been a huge part of the growth of our league. And she's not only an incredible player, but a great ambassador for the game. You've seen her she's done some work with the NBA on NBC this year, and couldn't be prouder how she's handling the moment.
There it is. Clean, direct, unambiguous. Caitlin Clark has been a huge part of the growth. No qualifiers, no asterisks, no laundry list of names to dilute the credit. And this is coming from the same person who went on CNN in July 2024 and rattled off 7 different players when asked about the rating spike. But here's what makes this moment significant. This interview happened on the Pat McAfee show, and that detail matters more than you might think.
If, oh my God, I woke up today, doing, time to stop being foolish. Maybe she did. But this is also what happens when you get these people talking in front of media who aren't paid shills. When you get them talking to media who aren't just going to bend over and listen to the lies that these people push forth. This was on the Pat McAfee show. In case you guys aren't aware, Pat McAfee, a bit of a renegade. Calls a spade a spade.
He's exactly right. Pat McAfee isn't a WNBA beat reporter worried about access. He's not a league-approved journalist who needs to maintain relationships with front office executives. McAfee built his entire brand on calling out nonsense when he sees it, and ESPN can't touch him because he's one of their only personalities that actually moves the needle. During Clark's rookie season in April 2024, McAfee did a 5-minute segment with PowerPoint slides breaking down exactly why the WNBA's growth was attributable to one person. He showed the attendance numbers, the television ratings, the social media engagement. All of it pointed to Caitlin Clark. Not a collective effort, not a rising tide lifting all boats. One player.
If you guys remember, during Caitlin Clark's rookie season, Pat McAfee did a 5-minute PowerPoint presentation speaking on how it's only because of Caitlin Clark. The growth is only because of Caitlin Clark. The attendance is only because of... The viewership is only because of Caitlin Clark. Cathy Engelbert, I'm sure, saw that. I'm sure Cathy Engelbert heard about that. So now that she's in front of Pat McAfee, she's picking her words wisely because she knows Pat McAfee will call her to the carpet.
That's the key insight right there. Engelbert knows she can't gaslight Pat McAfee the way she's gaslighted other media members for 2 years. She can't go on his show and start listing Angel Reese, Breanna Stewart, and Sabrina Ionescu as co-equal drivers of growth because McAfee will stop her mid-sentence and ask her to explain the data. When the Indiana Fever played, viewership averaged 1.2 million per game. When they didn't play, it dropped to 440,000. That's not a narrative, that's math. And McAfee has those numbers ready to go, so Engelbert chose her words carefully. Not because she suddenly had an epiphany about telling the truth, but because she was sitting across from someone who would publicly embarrass her if she tried the usual deflection tactics.
Is Cathy Engelbert choosing her words carefully? Kind of speaking more of the truth because she knows she can't gaslight Pat McAfee? She knows she can't just lie to Pat McAfee? Pat McAfee, one of the few people on ESPN, ESPN can't lose him. He'll say what he wants to say. He's too valuable to ESPN. The same way Stephen A. Smith will take 5 minutes to call out others in the media. Pat, ESPN, hey Pat, you're really our only draw here. You're really our only personality. We'll kind of let you do your own thing.
Watch how uncomfortable this makes certain people. The league spent all of 2024 trying to push this narrative that Clark was just one piece of a larger puzzle. that the WNBA's success was a team effort, that crediting one player diminished everyone else's contributions. But the numbers never supported that story. The Fever's playoff game against Connecticut drew 2.5 million viewers on September 25, 2024. It was the most-watched WNBA playoff game in 22 years. The Liberty Aces finals game without Clark the following week, 929,000 viewers, less than half. At some point, even the most committed narrative pusher has to acknowledge reality. And when you're sitting across from Pat McAfee, that point comes a lot sooner.
I just want her to stop pretending she's been doing all she could do for this league and quit taking credit for things that they were forced to finally provide because of the media's focus on Cece. No, Cathy is doing everything that she could do for this league. The league was about to fall into pieces. Now Caitlin Clark came and revived the league, brought it out of the basement into the forefront, but Cathy's been doing all that she could do for this league. So, to think she didn't mention another name alongside Clark for once, wow, they must have seen the numbers. Yeah, folks.
Every single one of those reactions captures something important. The Sheila Johnson meme, the Mystics owner looking disgusted, has become shorthand for how a certain segment of WNBA stakeholders reacts whenever Caitlin Clark gets individual credit. It's this visceral rejection of acknowledging that one player can be disproportionately responsible for growth. And that comment about this being a job-saving move, there's something to that. The media rights deal that was just announced, the one that's going to pay the WNBA $200 million annually starting in 2026, that deal doesn't happen without the 2024 ratings explosion. And the 2024 ratings explosion doesn't happen without Caitlin Clark. Engelbert knows that. The league office knows that. The players know that, even if some of them won't admit it publicly. And now, at least in front of certain media members, Engelbert is finally saying it out loud.
She always brings up everybody else's name. It seems to be a theme within the WNBA. Remember during the season last year, they asked Stephanie White, hey, Stephanie White, what do you think about Caitlin Clark? Oh, Caitlin Clark's great, but what about all these other players that came before her? It's like, Stephanie, we didn't ask you that question. What are you doing? Are you Caitlin Clark's coach, or are you a shill for the rest of the league? What is it? Interesting.
That's the pattern that's been driving people crazy for 2 years. Every single time Engelbert has been asked about the league's growth in mainstream media, in print interviews, in softball TV appearances, she's immediately pivoted to mentioning multiple players. It became this running joke among fans who actually pay attention to the data. Someone would ask about Caitlin Clark's impact, and Engelbert would respond with some version of, well, we're so fortunate to have Caitlin, and Angel, and Aja, and Brianna, and Sabrina, and Nafisa, and Iraq, as if they all contributed equally. As if the ratings didn't tell a completely different story, but she can't do that with Pat McAfee, because he'll call her out.
But the North remembers, oh, she's out of here. She's leaving. I don't think I think she's already aware that she's not going to be sticking around the WNBA for a while. Maybe, but it'd also be insane not to talk about her respectfully on an Indianapolis-based show, especially the Pat McAfee show. Pat McAfee will call her out. What'd you say? Come again? One more time? April Fools. All right, Cathy Engelbert is trying not to be a complete moron, giving Caitlin Clark her props for literally turning the WNBA into what it is today.
Here's what's particularly frustrating about Engelbert's 2-year deflection campaign. It's not just that she was being dishonest about the source of the league's growth. It's that her dishonesty had real consequences for how the league handled its biggest star. When you spend all season telling everyone that Clark is just one of many great players, you create an environment where fans and media members feel justified in treating her the same as everyone else. No special security considerations. No recognition that she's operating under a different level of scrutiny and pressure. No acknowledgement that the entire league's financial future is riding on her continued popularity. And that manifested in some ugly ways during the 2024 season. The physical play that crossed the line into cheap shots. The comments from other players dismissing her impact. The refusal from league officials to address obvious safety concerns. All of it flowed from this institutional refusal to acknowledge what was plainly obvious to anyone looking at the data.
Now, this whole entire interview, Cathy Engelbert saying nice things about the league, saying nice things about the player, outclassing Nafisa Collier, outclassing all the players that went out in the media and publicly trashed her. Cathy Engelbert's just a different type of than Nafisa Collier. She's not just going to drag the players through the mud just to drag them through the mud. It's not her spot, but again, she just isn't going to stoop that low.
That comparison to Stephanie White is revealing. During the 2024 season, reporters would ask White about coaching Caitlin Clark, and she'd immediately pivot to praising other players on the roster. Well, Caitlin's great, but let's not forget about Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hull. And it's like, nobody asked about those players. We're asking specifically about Clark because she's the reason this press conference is happening in the first place. But there's this institutional pressure within WNBA circles to always dilute individual credit, to always spread praise around, to never acknowledge that one player might be operating on a different level than everyone else. That approach might feel fair, but it's not honest, and it's not helpful when you're trying to build a league around transcendent talent.
It's still on site. I can't believe she didn't name every single player by name. How dare she? It's effort for life. Duh, it took her long enough. Yeah, it took her long enough. Better late than never. But again, she's not going to go on Pat McAfee's show and just gaslight him to his face, lie to his face. She knows that if she tries to pull that stunt on Pat McAfee's show.
Here's what makes this moment particularly significant. Engelbert isn't just the commissioner. She's the person who negotiated the media rights deal that's going to transform the league's financial situation. She sat in rooms with NBC executives, with Amazon executives, with ESPN executives, and sold them on the WNBA's growth trajectory. And you can bet that in those private conversations, she wasn't listing off 7 different players as co-equal drivers of ratings. She was showing them the Caitlin Clark numbers, the attendance spikes when the Fever came to town, the television ratings that tripled when Clark was playing, the social media and engagement that dwarfed anything the league had seen before. In private, with money on the line, Engelbert knows exactly who's responsible for the growth. It's only in public, when she's worried about player relationships and internal league politics, that she pretends it's a collective effort. But put her in front of Pat McAfee, someone who won't let her get away with that deflection, and suddenly the truth comes out. The question is whether this represents a genuine shift in how the league acknowledges Clark's impact, or whether it's just Engelbert being more careful about who she tries to gaslight. Based on her track record, smart money is on the latter. But at least for one interview, on one show, with one host who won't tolerate nonsense, we got something resembling honesty from the WNBA commissioner. And maybe, just maybe, that's the start of something. Because the league can't build sustainable success on a foundation of denying obvious reality. At some point, you have to acknowledge that Caitlin Clark isn't just part of the story. She is the story. And the sooner the WNBA embraces that publicly, not just in private negotiations with media executives, the better positioned they'll be to capitalize on this moment. The media rights deal is done. The money is secured. Now comes the hard part, actually delivering on the growth that justified that deal. And that means protecting, promoting, and properly crediting the player who made it all possible. Not because it's fair to her, though it is, but because it's essential for the league's future. So was this Cathy Engelbert turning over a new leaf? Or was it just Cathy Engelbert being smart enough not to lie to Pat McAfee's face? What do you think? Drop your take in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you want more honest breakdowns of what's actually happening in the WNBA. Because clearly, you're not getting it from the league office.